Keith Richards is a man who is recognized in the rock and roll community for his extraordinary achievements as well as his notorious excesses. The strange thing is that even if you consider yourself a devoted follower, you shouldn't assume that you know everything that goes on. Although Keith is known for his explosive stage performances, his life continues to be shrouded in mystery and full of terrifying mysteries. Are you curious about what those mysteries are? How did they affect his life? Take a moment to watch this video. It's time to get started. And do you know the legend of Keith Richards? Leave a 1 in the comments if you do. Richards's relationship. It is without a doubt that this will be the topic that the audience is most interested in. The relationship that existed between Richards and Pallenberg was of the highest possible caliber. At the same time that they were living together in a maelstrom of excess, inventiveness, and scandal, they were the personification of rock and roll glamour and defiance. These three children, Marlon, Angela, and Tara, were born to the couple in London, where they eventually made their home and settled down. However, Pallenberg's impact on the Rolling Stones extended far beyond her role as Richards' companion in the band throughout their career. She served as a source of inspiration, a fellow musician, and an essential member of the band's inner circle. Her one-of-a-kind approach and ferocious intelligence made an indelible mark on the band, having an impact not only on their musical style but also on their image and the social circles they walked in. Pallenberg's participation in the recording of Sympathy for the Devil, which is considered to be one of the Rolling Stones' most distinctive songs, is considered to be one of the most significant contributions she made to the band. A spooky, almost otherworldly quality is added to the music by her voice, which can be heard in the background of the song. Her effect, however, was not confined to the confines of the recording studio. Because Pallenberg's presence was so essential, several people believed her to be just as much a member of the band as Richards or Mick Jagger. After serving as the band's assistant from 1967 to 1973, Joe Bergman is credited with making the famous statement that Anita is just as much a member of the Rolling Stones as any of the other members. Nevertheless, Pallenberg's connection with Richards was everything but a picture-perfect one. Heavy drug usage and the type of excess that was typical of the rock and roll lifestyle of the period were two of the defining characteristics of the couple's life they shared. Both Pallenberg and Richards suffered a significant amount of harm as a result of their heroin addiction, which resulted in a downward spiral that was made worse by the demands of celebrities and the chaotic character of their lives. Richards' demanding tour schedule, the responsibilities of their increasing family, and the pressure of their addiction all contributed to the couple's drifting apart, which was caused by the strain of their addiction. Their relationship had reached a stage of disintegration by the year 1980, at which point they decided to part ways. A significant turning point in Richards' life occurred at the same time as their relationship came to an end. Patty Hansen, a supermodel who would later become Richards' second wife, was introduced to Richards around the time that they both decided to end their marriage. Richards' new chapter, which was far more stable than the one he had spent with Pallenberg, began with their encounter at the famed Studio 54. This meeting signaled the beginning of a new chapter for Richards. Richards' life lacked a feeling of serenity and stability for several years, but Hansen, who was well known for her beauty and her down-to-earth demeanor, brought those things back into his life. In 1983, the pair tied the knot, and the fact that they have remained together for almost 40 years is evidence of the intensity of their romantic connection. Now, let's travel back in time to the early years of Keith Richards, and we will find a lot of intriguing stuff. Even though he would go on to become one of the most famous individuals in the history of rock and roll, Richards had a boyhood that was fairly normal and rather honest. At the beginning of his musical career, he participated in the choir of the church that he attended. It was reported by The Guardian that little Keith was a member of the choir and performed soprano parts. Early on, his abilities were noticed, and he went on to play at famous places such as Westminster Abbey, where he even sang for Queen Elizabeth II. This time of his life was characterized by a strict dedication to discipline and the structure of choral music, which stands in sharp contrast to the lifestyle he established as a rock star later in his life. There is a possibility that the experience of singing in a choir and playing for royalty instilled in him a feeling of accuracy and regard for musical traditions. These are qualities that would later impact his distinctive guitar work and musical style. During his formative years, Richards was also active in the Boy Scouts, which is another facet of his early life that highlights his formative years. Throughout his scouting career, he finally became the leader of a beaver patrol. Through his participation in the Boy Scouts, he gained valuable knowledge and experience in the areas of leadership and collaboration, which would prove to be crucial in his subsequent professional endeavors. Despite this, his time spent as a scout was not devoid of its own unique set of difficulties. Richard's time spent in the Scouts came to an end as a result of an incident, which served as a precursor to the defiant nature that would later come to characterize his rock star persona. Richard's early life and his subsequent rock and roll career are very different from one another, which is a startling contrast. He participated in activities that stressed discipline and structure when he was a young kid, but he also had a stubborn streak that would eventually reveal itself in his music and his public life. As a result of his early involvement in the Scouts and the choir, he developed a strong sense of discipline and a natural talent for leadership. These experiences were crucial in the formation of his character. During the time that he was participating in scouting and gaining an understanding of the structure of choral music, he was also developing his natural defiance and want for independence. He was learning the importance of working together and being precise. By the time he was a teenager, Richards had already started to explore the world of rock and roll, which was a world that was quite different from the regimented surroundings he had experienced during his childhood life. His musical inspirations included blues, rock, and rhythm and blues, and he rapidly became well known for his raw energy and distinctive guitar technique. His musical influences included a wide spectrum of genres. Richards's career was built on a foundation that was one of a kind because of his early upbringing, which was an example of both discipline and disobedience. In the course of his development as a musician, he gained a variety of abilities and influences from his experiences as a choir boy and scout. These experiences contributed to his overall artistic growth. The contrast between his regimented childhood and the lifestyle he led as a rock star later in life highlights the complexity of his personality, as well as the development of his musical career. There is a relationship between Richard's subsequent efforts and his early experiences with choral singing and the Boy Scouts. This connection can be found in each of his endeavors. For example, Richards and his pals, who were members of the Jamaican Rastafari community, came together to establish a group that was known as Jamaica's Wingless Angels. Since the 1970s, this organization has been actively engaged in the process of discovering and maintaining more traditional forms of Jamaican music. A minimalist, repetitive sound that harkens back to Richard's early choral experiences is created by them through the use of classic choral hymns, chanting, and nyabingi drumming. This endeavor is a reflection of how his early musical experience continues to impact him throughout his career, merging his past with his present in a way that is distinctive. We are unable to overlook the fascinating interaction that existed between Keith Richards and Mick Jagger that occurred throughout his career. Additionally, even though their collaboration has resulted in the production of some of the most astonishing music in the history of the world, their relationship has also been characterized by significant differences and confrontations that have been brought to the attention of the public. Jagger and Richards's relationship has been a roller coaster ride of professional triumphs and emotional conflicts, which is a reflection of the difficult nature of their long-term cooperation. This is a reflection of the fact that their relationship has been quite problematic. Around the middle of the 1980s, the Rolling Stones went through a period of upheaval, which coincided with the time when they had their first serious public rupture together. In 1985, Jagger chose to launch his solo career with the release of his album titled She's the Boss. This decision marked the beginning of a string of disagreements. As a result of the major deviation from the band's collaborative effort that the solo endeavor represented, Richards did not take well to the arrangement. A further deterioration of the situation occurred when Jagger announced that he would not be taking part in the tour for the Stones' album Dirty Work, which was released in 1986. As a result of this decision, the band entered what Richards would later refer to as World War III, a time that was marked by tremendous internal turmoil and created a significant strain on their relationship. Both Jagger's second solo album, Primitive Cool, which was released in 1987, and Richards' solo effort, Talk is Cheap, which was released in 1988, contributed to the widening of the current gap. As the members of the Rolling Stones pursued separate careers with what appeared to be little concern for the band's cohesiveness, these albums appeared to be an indication that the band was coming to an end. There came a period when the tension between Jagger and Richards reached a boiling point, and it seemed as though their collaboration was on the verge of dissolving. In 1989, Jagger and Richards were able to resolve their differences despite the difficulties they faced. As part of the Steel Wheels tour, which heralded the band's return to the spotlight and the continuation of their joint endeavors, they got back together and performed all together. On the other hand, the calm was precarious and only brief. The band's public and private contacts continued to be tense, with frequent jabs and tactical apologies becoming a staple of their interactions with one another. In his memoir, Life, published in 2010, Richards provided an honest insight into the tense relationship that they shared. In the book, Richards disclosed that he had not been to Jagger's dressing room for decades. He cited his uneasiness with Jagger's presence as the reason for his absence, and he said that Jagger had grown a hyperinflated ego throughout his career. In the memoir, Jagger was characterized as becoming more and more intolerable, which added gasoline to the fire of suspicion over the nature of their relationship. The statements that Richards made against Jagger went beyond venting his concerns. In the book Life, Richards detailed how the band had come up with a clandestine way to convey their annoyance with Jagger during their time together. According to Richards, the other members of the band would refer to Jagger using nicknames such as Brenda or Her Majesty to convey their dislike for him while yet avoiding confrontation. In particular, the moniker Brenda was used to refer to Jagger in a pejorative manner. This allowed the members of the band to make jokes about him even while he was physically there. The long-standing disputes that existed between the two rock superstars were brought to light by this technique of communication, which was a form of passive-aggressive communication. On top of that, Keith Richards and Tom Waits have bromances that are widely regarded as being among the most interesting and enduring in the annals of rock and roll history. Their relationship has been characterized by mutual respect, pleasant companionship, and a shared interest in music ever since the middle of the 1980s. They have been in a partnership since that time. As a consequence of this dedication, several significant collaborations and stories have been produced. The beginning of their friendship was sparked by the publication of Waits' album Rain Dogs in 1985. This event acted as the impetus for the connection between them. The vocals and guitar parts for a few of the songs that are included on this album were performed by Keith Richards, who is well known for his distinctive approach to playing the guitar and his profound understanding of a wide range of musical styles. There are a few songs that are featured on this album. It was via this first collaboration that the two artists were able to build a long-lasting musical cooperation with one another, which in turn laid the groundwork for their friendship. It was clear that they had a harmonious relationship in the studio, and their connection went beyond the scope of their professional encounters. With the release of a rendition of the traditional sea shanty Shenandoah in 2013, Richards and Waits further solidified their relationship against one another. Their rendition of the song, which included Richards' growling vocals and Waits' one-of-a-kind manner, demonstrated their capacity to combine their voices into a piece of music that is fascinating and unforgettable. Not only was this cooperation a demonstration of the great level of musical synergy that they possess, but it also brought to light the profound regard and affection that they have for one another. The hilarious and irreverent methods in which they recognize one another are another manifestation of the intimate bond that they have with one another. One of the most noteworthy instances is a poem written by Waits, titled Keith Richards, which is written in a tongue-in-cheek manner. Within the context of this poem, Waits makes a hilarious comparison between Richards and a fax machine, makes a lighthearted reference to the fact that the color of his urine is blue, and compares Richards to a praying mantis with one ear positioned between his legs. This humorous jab highlights the comfortable and transparent nature of their connection, allowing for a degree of irreverence and comedy that can only be shared by those who are close friends. There have been times when their artistic collaborations have not gone smoothly, even though they share a strong relationship. The two individuals made an effort to write songs together for Waits' album titled Bad As Me. Richards' constant yelling of "Scribe," while pointing at Waits, produced a humorous episode that took place at the time when they were working on composing songs together. After a brief period of reflection, Waits realized that Richards was not requesting the services of a scribe. Rather, he was suggesting that Waits should record the improvised music that they were producing. The incident highlighted the sometimes chaotic but ultimately creative nature of their interactions. Although Richards did not receive co-writing credits on the album, he did contribute guitar parts to a few tracks. The lead single, Satisfied, even featured a reference to both Richards and Mick Jagger. acknowledging their influence and presence in Waite's musical world. This will be a little-known secret. In 1965, Keith Richards purchased a luxurious Bentley S3 Continental Flying Spur, which he affectionately named Blue Lena after the celebrated jazz singer Lena Horne. This vehicle became more than just a means of transportation. It began to be seen as a representation of Richards' defiant nature, as well as the expensive way of living that came along with success in the rock and roll industry. Richards wanted to make a statement with his Bentley S3 Continental Flying Spur, which is renowned for its streamlined appearance and strong performance. Blue Lena was a moniker that showed both his appreciation for jazz as well as his own distinctive sense of style. Over more than a decade, the automobile served not only as a representation of affluence, but also as a witness to a great deal of Richards' mistakes and adventures. The year 1967 saw the occurrence of one of the most infamous instances involving Blue Lena, which took place after a high-profile heroin raid that led to legal issues for Richards. Richards decided to embark on a spectacular voyage through Europe, to arrive in Marrakesh, Morocco, to escape the media frenzy and the pressure from the court system. The road trip was not only a means of escape for him, but it also marked the beginning of his relationship with Anita Pallenberg, who was an important character in both his personal life and the history of the Rolling Stones. The Blue Lena rear seat was the setting for the blossoming of the romance, which contributed to the car's illustrious history. Blue Lena was involved in a collision with a tree in 1976, which made the history of the automobile more tragic. Richards had fallen asleep behind the wheel of the vehicle. An imprint had been left on the dashboard as a result of the significant impact that Richards' nose had experienced. The rock star's wild lifestyle and the implications of his chaotic existence were brought into sharp relief by the accident, which served as a vivid reminder of both. Blue Lena continued to be a constant presence in Richards' life for a few more years, despite the injuries that she had sustained. By 1978, Richards had decided to split ways with Blue Lena, and the automobile went through some different ownership changes. Even though each new owner would write their chapter on the car's history, the car's link to Richards would continue to be an important component of its characteristics. According to Bonhams, a renowned auction company that is well known for managing high-profile automobile sales, the Bentley that had been completely repaired was placed up for auction in the year 2015. Not only was Blue Lena a luxury automobile, but it was also a car that had been a part of the Rolling Stones' famous past. Bonhams stated that it was a premium automobile. It was thought that it was used to transport the band to a variety of gigs, parties, and other excursions. This was a reflection of the high-octane lifestyle that Richards and his bandmates embodied. In his own words, Richards characterized the car known as Blue Lena as one that was designed to be driven quickly throughout the night. It is possible to claim that this sentence embodies the essence of his outlook on life, as well as his relationship with driving. According to Richards, the ownership of such a rare and luxurious car was an act of defiance against the norms and expectations of society. According to Richards, this was an act of defiance, an indication of his willingness to live on the edge and to reject the standards that are believed to be customary. It was a declaration against the existing order. It was an expression of himself. The fact that Richards owned Blue Lena was more than just a representation of his wealth. There was more to it than that. Both his personality and the rock and roll philosophy that he adhered to were embodied in it. The Bentley was not a car that he was born into. Rather, it was a sign of his own creation and his resistance to being constrained by the expectations of society. During the month of April 1971, Keith Richards was successful in securing the rental of a luxurious and traditionally frowned-upon villa known as Villa Nelcote, which was located on the French Riviera. In the beginning, the Rolling Stones had intended to record their landmark album Exile on Main Street in a farmhouse in the French Hills. However, they ultimately decided to go with the villa as a backup plan. Following the failure of their search for an appropriate farmhouse, Richards was tasked with the responsibility of locating an alternate location acceptable for the event. Villa Nelcote, with its long and troubled past, turned out to be the option, even if it was not expected. Villa Nelcote was not your typical recording setting by any stretch of the heart. When Germany occupied France during World War II, the estate had a troubled history since it had been used as a headquarters for the Nazi dictatorship. There were remaining vestiges of this horrible history that Richards and his bandmates came upon, such as swastikas that were still evident in the basement. During the time when the Rolling Stones were setting up their makeshift recording studio, the chilling history of the house gave an ominous depth to the mood. By combining parts of a backstage area with the chaos of a hotel room that had been somewhat abandoned, the property was converted into an unorthodox recording location. An environment that was as chaotic as it was inspirational was created as a result of the mixture of Villa Nelcote's troubled past, the constant stream of drug dealers, hangers-on, and high-profile guests, and the confluence of these factors. The stifling heat, dripping walls, and inadequate air circulation in the basement of the villa all contributed to the building's already peculiar atmosphere, which was further intensified by the building's physical circumstances. On Main Street, the Sound of Exile was significantly influenced by this one-of-a-kind atmosphere, which played a significant role. Many people have referred to the album, which was published in 1972, as having a marshy feel. This is a reflection of the unique recording conditions that were present at Villa Nelcote. Due to the album's raw and gritty sound, it has subsequently earned a position among the Rolling Stones' most acclaimed works. It is recognized for its combination of rock, blues, and soul, because of its unique musical style. In spite of the widespread praise that the record has received, Villa Nelcote is not a particularly well-liked location for Rolling Stones fans. It is difficult to get to the property due to its secluded position on the French Riviera, and the present owner does not make an effort to be particularly inviting to guests. Because of this, the estate continues to be a largely unknown monument in the history of rock and roll, despite the fact that it made a big contribution to one of the Stones' most memorable albums. Keith Richards, who is well known for his colorful and varied sense of dress, has been able to fascinate audiences for a long time with his daring coats, flowing scarves, and striking accessories. His fashion sense, on the other hand, is not quite as self-made as it could appear. Richards' signature look. According to The Telegraph, Richards' characteristic appearance is based on a method that is far less complicated than one might expect. It is not uncommon for him to borrow garments from the ladies in his life. The famed musician, whose diverse clothing served as the inspiration for Johnny Depp's iconic Captain Jack Sparrow outfit in the Pirates of the Caribbean series, is known to routinely raid the closets of his wife, Patty Hansen, as well as his children, Alexandra and Theodora Richards. Richards has said that the majority of his wardrobe is comprised of items that he has borrowed from members of his family. Richards insists that he does not purposefully design a costume, but rather simply wears what he loves wearing most of the time, despite the fact that his ensembles have an attention-grabbing look. Alexandra, his daughter, has provided evidence in favor of this assertion, stating that her father had a remarkable capacity to wear nearly anything, even her own clothing, or even her mother's PJ trousers, and yet managed to seem fashionable and genuine. This versatility in dress is a reflection of Richards' more comprehensive approach to his public presence, which is an easy combination of personal comfort and flair. It is notable that Richards' sense of style is not only an extension of his own personal preferences, rather, it is also a reflection of the rock and roll philosophy that he adheres to. His ability to easily mix women's apparel into his wardrobe is a tribute to the fluidity with which he approaches both his sense of style and his personality. As a result of his propensity for mixing and combining pieces from his family's closets, he has developed a style that is both unforgettable and original, which has become a defining characteristic of his public image. Richards has never indulged in the practice of exchanging clothing with Mick Jagger, his long-standing bandmate and fellow Rolling Stone. This is despite the fact that Richards has always been known to dabble with fashion. On the other hand, there is a noteworthy outlier from the 1970s, when the entire band wore coats that were very identical to one another. Richards related an instance that occurred during this time period of shared fashion in which he wore a jacket that he had borrowed, which resulted in an unforeseen outcome. To his complete surprise, he was unaware that one of the pockets in the jacket contained prohibited substances. Because of the unfortunate mix-up, Richards was caught and had to assume responsibility for the drugs. This exemplifies the unanticipated issues that might develop as a result of having a shared wardrobe. Keith Richards' life. His life is a fascinating tapestry of survival and resiliency, and it is a testament to his character, characterized by a string of high-stakes mishaps and near misses that appear to have been written down just for an action hero. Richards continues to defy the odds, making his existence give the impression that it is nothing short of miraculous. This is in spite of the extreme hazards that he has encountered. Beginning with his early days, Richards has had a troubled existence filled with situations that posed a threat to his life. During World War II, a Nazi 5-1 rocket struck the location where infant Keith Richards was supposed to be napping. This occurred during the bombings that were carried out in London. In a fortunate turn of events, Richards and his mother had already departed the premises, narrowly surviving the damage. It was an early sign of the guitarist's amazing ability to avoid potentially lethal occurrences, and this close call was one of them. Another close call with peril occurred for Richards in 1965, when he was playing on stage. During a live performance, his microphone experienced a failure that resulted in an electric shock. This caused the strings on his guitar to catch fire, which ultimately led to his unconsciousness. Not only did this occurrence put his health in jeopardy, but it also highlighted the precarious nature of live rock concerts. During the early 1970s, Richards faced an increased number of dangers. When he was smoking in bed in 1971, he accidentally fell asleep, which was a terrifying experience for him. The mattress caught fire as a result of the cigarette, putting Richards and his companion, Anita Pallenberg, in risk of being taken out of the situation. Despite the fact that they both managed to escape without suffering any significant injuries, the incident brought to light the risks associated with Richards' rock and roll lifestyle. During the year 1973, Richards' residence, which was known as Redlands, was consumed by fire, which was yet another catastrophe. This episode contributed to his lengthy history of disasters, despite the fact that he swore that a wire-chewing mouse was the source of the unfortunate event. A further serious episode involving drugs occurred in the 1970s, and the mystery surrounding the fire was but a footnote in Richards' turbulent life, which included other incidents. When Richards was poisoned by pills that included strychnine, he went through one of the most traumatic drug experiences of his whole lifestyle. Over the course of the past few years, Richards has continued to have misfortunes, although in more commonplace situations. When he was reaching for a book in his library in the year 1998, he sustained a serious injury. Heavy volumes fell on him as a consequence of the slide, which resulted in numerous fractured ribs. This incident serves as a sharp reminder that even rock icons are susceptible to commonplace mishaps. When Richards was on holiday in Fiji in 2006, he was attempting to forage for coconuts when he fell from a palm tree. This incident is considered to be one of the most spectacular incidents that has ever occurred. Because of the incident, the patient had a serious fracture to the skull, which required brain surgery. This occurrence was a defining point in Richards' life and had a long-lasting impact on his physical well-being. What are your thoughts on these intriguing facts about Keith Richards that are not well known? Use the space provided below to share your thoughts with us. Please let us know if you found this video to be useful. If you really enjoy the channel, don't forget to give it a like, share it with your friends, and subscribe to it. I appreciate you taking the time to view this, and I'll see you in the upcoming films. I will miss you.